Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Tobey's Talk Show. I believe this is the 12th episode, and today we'll be discussing each team after the All Star break. How are they doing this season? You know, what's going on, etc., etc. So, let's start off with the best team in the league. We will do conferences, so we'll start with the East, do the best teams down, and then we'll go to the West. So the first team is the Milwaukee Bucks with an incredible 50-8 record. So the Milwaukee Bucks, they look pretty much unstoppable. Chris Middleton is looking like the second option they've always wanted. Um, and Giannis is having an MVP season right now. I think he would be the unanimous MVP. Eric Bledsoe's doing his thing. I think Marvin Williams was a great pickup for them. Um, Brooke Lopez is getting back in stride, and he's actually using the post for the first time in his career. Robin Lopez could actually hit a three or two. Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, they have a great, well-rounded team. That's why I wasn't surprised they didn't do anything during the trade deadline. Um, and yeah, right now they look unstoppable. They're still using Mike Budenholzer looks like a Coach of the Year candidate. He is killing it. He knows what he has to do, which is give Giannis the ball, let him drive. If he's open, he'll shoot it. Or if he thinks he could get a foul, he'll go at the rim. Or he could pass it out. And Chris Middleton is a playmaker. Bledsoe's a playmaker. Wesley Matthews could hit a three. So they're looking good right now, and it looks like no one can stop them. The next team is the Toronto Raptors with a 42-16 record. So the Toronto Raptors are looking very good right now. They were just on a 15-game winning streak, which was just snapped by the Nets a few weeks ago. Um, but they're looking hot even with the injuries they're facing. They've had Marc Gasol out for a while. Norman Powell has been dealing with injuries. Same with Kyle Lowry. Um, Ibaka's been out. So their team as a whole has been dealing with a lot of injuries. But they're starting to get healthy. Gasol and Powell are still out. Um, but right now, I think their team is starting to get in the groove of things. Matt Thomas, their rookie, is starting to become a real three-point threat. Terrence Davis, their other rookie, is solidifying himself as a very good player, a role player, not for the Raptors, but could be something in the future. You have Kyle Lowry, who is being an all-star, and you have Pascal Siakam, who's playing like a top five player in the East right now. Um, and I think when their whole team comes back, they'll be a much different team against the Bucks last night. They weren't on their A game. They only scored like 90 points, which is low for them. Um, but I think when Marc Gasol gets back, Norman Powell, they'll have their full strength. I think they'll be fine. Nick Nurse is looking like the Coach of the Year frontrunner, so good for him. He is 139, I believe, in his 139 games coach, which is crazy. It's like a 70% win percentage. The next team we have is the Celtics with a 40-17 record. So the Celtics are a team where they could either get bounced in the second round or make it to the finals depending on where they land seeding wise at the end of the year. Um, Kemba Walker is dealing with injuries right now, but Jason Tatum is really blossoming into a star. And Jaylen Brown is solidifying himself as a very good player, fringe all star type player. You have Gordon Hayward, who looks like he's getting back to his Utah ways. And of course, you have Kemba Walker. When he comes back, he'll be an all star. Daniel Theis is starting to progress offensively. Cantor doesn't really play. You have Wanamaker and Langford off the bench. Smart is still a defensive powerhouse. Right now, the team looks really good. Their offense is there. They have to start becoming a better rebounding team. And that's why I didn't really get why Cantor's not playing. I think if you put Cantor in for 10 minutes, he could get you boards that are really necessary if you want to win a lot of games. The next team we have is the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat, they started off really strong, and they still look like a great team, but they're starting to slow down on their fire. A little joke right there. Run. Basically, they were really hot in the first part of the season, and you know it was really just like the rookies were killing it. Kendrick Nunn is starting to slow down. Harrow has been injured. Jimmy Butler's been out for a few games. So it's again another team that has been dealing with injuries and players being out. But when they all play, they're a very good team, and they could be a very tough first round matchup. Because when you look at it, the East is a very top six heavy team, and these six teams, when fully healthy, could all make the finals. Um, and it's a case where it's like, oh, the Heat make the finals. Oh, okay, not that surprising. The Sixers make the finals. oh, not that surprising. So it could definitely be a case where the sixth seed could make the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the finals. It just really depends the seeding, because like let's say the Sixers get the sixth seed, they probably won't perform as well as if they were the second seed because they're a lot better of a home team. And when you're a home team in the playoffs, you get 4 games at home compared to 3 away. So if the Sixers are the sixth seed, in the first round they're gonna have to play 4 away games, and they are atrocious right now on the road. And we'll get right into the Sixers right now. And like I said, they're a great home team. They can't be stopped. But if they want to make it far, they have to start getting up in the rankings to get that home court advantage. Because right now, during the whole playoffs, if all the higher seeds win, which is most likely, um, they're not going to play many games at home compared to how many games they're going to have to play away, especially if they go to 7 games. Right now, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Joel Embiid just got hurt tonight, and Ben Simmons is out, so that is not good because that's just going to drop them even further. Probably not to 7 because the Nets and Magic are really struggling this year. But they're going to probably stay at that 6 seed, and that's not going to be good in the playoffs. And also, do not if the Sixers do not perform, let's say Simmons and Embiid is back and they get bounced in the first round, expect Brett Brown to be in talks about being fired. The next team we have is the Indiana Pacers. I'm sorry. The Sixers are the 5th seed right now, but they will most likely drop to 6 after their 2 stars are injured. That's just my prediction. So actually in 6, we have the Indiana Pacers. Um, the Pacers are a team where once Victor Oladipo starts to get healthy, I think they'll be a very good team. Um, you know, they were on a roll without Oladipo. It looks like Sabonis and Turner are really becoming into a 1-2 punch. But when Oladipo comes back, the ball is going to start to get into his hands, and he's got to start, getting used to being back on a basketball court for 30 minutes, and that may take some time, and that's okay because Oladipo is your best player, and you're going to have to let him. Um, and you're going to have to let him roll back in because in the playoffs you're going to have to rely on him when you're down by 2 with 30 seconds left and you need a clutch shot. Oladipo is a guy who will put up 25 a game in the playoffs. He has that clutch gene in him where he could do very well, um, and do very well in the clutch. And right now they're still going through with Oladipo, him trying to get back on the right track, and that may take some time. But if that's the time you need for Oladipo to get back to his 25 points per game, I'm sure the Pacers would be fine with that. The last 25 games of the season, of course, they want to end up as the high seed, but I'm sure they're focusing on getting Oladipo back on track. Also, got to give a shout out to Malcolm Brogdon, who's having a superb year. Next, we have the Nets. Starting now, like I said, the top 6 teams are the powerhouse teams. Then it gets really bad from there, and so, these next 10 teams, I believe, are gonna be not nice words are gonna be said to these teams since they are performing very poorly. The Nets right now, Kyrie Irving, I don't know where he went. He's obviously he's done for the season now, but he was in and out. He only played I think 26 games this year, but he is a stud, and we saw that with his stats looking at them when he did play. Um, he's a guy where when he is on the court, he will make a total difference. And you could say, oh, the records, blah, blah, blah. But everyone knows when Kyrie is on the court, maybe his leadership is not always there, but he is someone that will give you 30 a night, give you 10 assists, and will give you the win. Of course, they're going to get Kevin Durant back next year, so I am not worried about their team at all. Next year, they will be title contenders. This year is pretty much a wash. They're going to get bounced in the first round, and they'll be back stronger than ever next year. The next team we have is the Orlando Magic. The Magic are a team where they're not in a great place, and I say that because, you're going to say, Tobey, like, they're going to make the playoffs this year, so that's good. Yes, but they don't have that many building blocks to build around in the next coming years. Vucevic is around 26 now. Of course, he's a great player, but he's not an all-star caliber player. Fournier is getting up there in age. Gordon's never going to be an all-star, most likely. And then you look at their future, they don't have them. Fultz probably will never be an all-star just because, of course he's playing a lot better this year. You got to give credit to him because he's had a lot of adversity and struggles. But they don't have anyone that you can say, oh, this guy might be an all-star on their team. And if they start being at that 8th spot still over and over again like they were last year, and I think they were at the 7th seed last year, but I'm saying 8th, 7th, 9th seed, they're not going to get a top pick and they can't get a franchise player. So right now I think they're stuck in mediocrity, and there's nothing you can really do about that because you don't want to trade Fournier for nothing and Gordon for nothing, especially if they're your top players. But right now they are having a lot of struggles with trying to get out of mediocrity. Next we have the Wisdom. I'm trying to go through these the teams that will not make the playoffs most likely quickly, just because it doesn't really matter. Their season's a wash, and um, you know we just don't care about them as of now, since now we're looking at these playoff teams more carefully and these teams that are tanking less carefully. So the Washington Wizards, they just beat the Nets tonight, but um, it doesn't really matter. They're not going to pass the Wizards, the Magic. I'm sorry, they are 5 games back, and they just don't have that great of a team. You've seen Bradley Beal just put up 2 50-point games plus, and they still can't win. So that shows you that the team is just not that good, and they are also kind of stuck in mediocrity. As in, of course, they have the superstar in Bradley Beal, but John Wall might take a few years to get back to being his old self, and they don't have any franchise stars. Roy Hachimura could be a very good player, I think, um, when he when he gets older in the league. But I just don't see any franchise stars. When John Wall comes back, I'm sure they'll be like the 7th seed next year, and that's great for them because the Wizards have been you know having troubles. They've been in the lottery a couple for the past couple of years, and it'll be good to see them back in the playoffs most likely next year if John Wall is fully healthy and back. Um, but no one's talking about you in 3 years saying, "Oh, remember when the Wizards were the 7th seed?" They're gonna say, "Oh, remember when the Wizards make the championship with their franchise player, which they don't have as of now." Next, we have the Bulls. The Bulls are in a terrible spot, as in their coach is terrible, their front office is terrible. Zach LaVine's obviously a star, but Lauri Markkanen is not improving like people thought he would. Kobe White looks great though. So they have these two players, but Zach LaVine obviously looks frustrated, and he honestly may request a trade, which is terrible because you never want your franchise player to want to leave. And besides that, they don't have that many other pieces. Dunn's a great defensive player, but but lacks offensive capabilities, um, and so forth. They're having point guard troubles, but I think Kobe White for the rest of the year will take control and show what he's really worth and why he was the 7th pick in the draft. The next team we have is the Charlotte Hornets. Um, they have also been stuck in mediocrity for a couple of years now, and that's because of Kemba Walker. Just like the Wizards, they have a star, but they're not building around him properly, and they're not giving him players to build off of because A, they're not getting high lottery picks, and B, because they're not, the coolest destination to go to, like LA or like Brooklyn. No one really wants to go to Charlotte. No one really wants to go to Washington, D.C. So it's tough. They have Devonte Graham and Terry Rozier as their guards. They have Pete. They have a lot of young players, but none of these players are really emerging besides Devonte Graham. So they're going to be probably in the lottery again. Hopefully, they get moved up with this new lottery system. They could get a franchise guy like an Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, etc. The next team we have is the Pistons. The Pistons, they're going to go full rebuild now. They were in mediocrity for a long time with Blake Griffin and Drummond, and now you will see that with Christian Wood, who looks like a great player, and Sekou Demboya, they will start to become a team that will be bad for a few years, but will be back soon. Christian Wood looks like a great player, and Sekou Demboya looks like he's a lot of potential that could be knocked out of him to become a great player. Next team we have is the Knicks. The Knicks are in a lot of trouble. I'm a Knicks fan, and it hurts. It hurts. We haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. Going to be 8 now. And I mean, we have RJ Barrett who shows his flashes. He could put 20 points a game, but the Knicks aren't giving him the ball. Mitchell Robinson looks great, but he's not starting. The problem with the Knicks is that Mike Miller knows he will not be on. Mike Miller is the coach, and he knows that he will not be the coach next year because the Knicks are getting a new front office, and so usually when you get a new president, the president likes to choose his own office and team, and so Tom Thibodeau has been in talks, Van Gundy, blah blah blah. But that just means that Mike Miller is going to try to get as many wins as he can for his resume, which makes sense. You can't blame the guy because this guy wants a job. And so it sucks because he's going to want to play the vets, but as a team, you want to play Alonzo True, who hasn't played a lot. Mitchell Robinson, who's not starting, and he should be starting. RJ Barrett, who's playing a lot, but doesn't have the ball in his hands because all these vets are hogging the ball up. Dennis Smith, who's behind Payton and Ntilikina. Dotson, who sometimes doesn't get minutes, etc., etc. So these young guys, I think for the next 24 games will start to get a lot of minutes, and hopefully that the Knicks could go on the right track of playing the young guys, getting a good pick in this year's lottery, um, and going on from there. The next team we have is the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's going to be very interesting their summer this year because they have Andre Drummond, who could take his player option, which is like 29 mil, which is obviously not what you want to pay for Drummond. and that could be a concern because they might want to trade him because they don't want to give him 29 mil, and they want to play their younger guys, as in Garland and Sexton, who's starting to show out, and Porter Jr., who's playing well right now. Um, so it's going to be very interesting to see what they do, but they are, since LeBron James has left and got them the championship, they've been in full rebuild mode, and they still will be for a few years. But at least they have someone they know is a very good player in Sexton and Garland, who's shown his potential, and Kevin Porter, who's shown his potential. And we'll see what they do with Drummond. That could be very important to see how they will be rebuilding in the next couple of years. The next team we have is the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know what happened. I thought the Hawks would be a top 10 team. I thought they'd be the 10th or 9th seed. People were saying they could be like the 7th seed, which is pretty crazy. But they did have like 30 wins last year with Trae Young, but they will not get that this year. Trae Young is a superstar in the league, which is great because they have their franchise guy. Now for the Hawks is about rebuilding, getting a top pick this year, and because uh, Atlanta has never been known as like the hottest spot. If you got in Paul Millsap before and blah blah blah, but they've never had that superstar that's come to Atlanta, as in through free agency. And so it'll be very interesting to see um, what's going to happen with free agency. What they do, they'll probably do what they did last year, which is uh, take a lot of bad contracts since they know that they're not a team that's like a hot spot right now. And they will just keep building through the draft, and hopefully young guys like Hunter and Huerter and sorry, and Reddish and their top pick this year will start to show their potential and hopefully flower into a very good player, all of them respectfully. Now let's start with the Western Conference, and we will begin with the Lakers, who had the second best record in the league with a 44-12 record. So the Lakers right now are definitely going to be in contention to make the finals and win the whole thing. Right now, LeBron and AD are on another level, and the role guys that they got in free agency are starting to show what they could do. And it's kind of like the Giannis. Vogel's kind of going through what Giannis is going. Let LeBron and AD get in the paint, and then pop it out to a Danny Green, Avery Bradley, KCP to knock down the three because they are all players that can knock down a three. So they look good right now. They defensively they got better. Like I said, Frank Vogel was with the Pacers in 2012, 2013 when they were known for the defense with Roy Hibbert, David West, Danny Granger. So I think it was a very good signing because we knew LeBron and AD had that offensive capabilities, and of course AD is a great defensive player. But last year the struggles were defensively, and it looks like they've patched it up a great amount. So they look unstoppable right now. I think their game plan is great. Let LeBron and AD take control of the game, and if you see someone like a Danny Green on the outside, let him take the shot. Next, we have the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are probably the best team that's just never talked about. They have the second best record in the West with 40-18. The West is known to be very competitive, and no one talks about them. It's kind of crazy. Right now, Jokic is playing great. Jamal Murray is back to being a solid point guard. Gary Harris has been struggling, however. Michael Porter Jr. looks great when he gets the minutes, which is why I think uh, one, Malone is a great coach, but the one thing is, why are you not playing Porter Jr. as much? He has shown that he can put up 28 game if you give him the minutes. So that's why I am a little concerned because I feel like Malone's rotation sometimes could be a little iffy and who he's putting in, who he's putting out. But I feel as if the Nuggets are in a great spot to at least make it to the second round just because, even if they make it, they will have to play the Clippers. Let's say the Clippers make it to the second round also. They would play and I would take the Clippers just because I think they have the best roster in the league. And we'll get to that in a second. But, um, I think that you have to run the ball through Jokic. Jokic is someone that could take it down low, shoot the three, and he could find the open man. And I think that's what they've been doing. That's what they're going to have to do throughout the season and in the playoffs. Next, we have the Clippers. And like I said, I think the Clippers have the best roster. However, they're always injured. They've only played 5 games this year where their whole team has played, which is what their whole rotation has played, which is insane. They had a great trade deadline slash waiver wire where they picked up Reggie Jackson. He's a solid guard off the bench. You can pair Lou Will very nicely, and Marcus Morris, who could give you 15 to 20 a night. Um, if he has the ball in his hands, but he won't that much. So he'll put up 12 to 15 a night, but it's still a great pickup for them as the Lakers also wanted to get him. The Clippers I think are the leaders to make it through the West. It's just if they're gonna be healthy, that's their number one problem. Are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be ready? We know Kawhi could turn it on in the playoffs, and we will see if Kawhi will be on the court during the playoffs due to a lot of injuries. The next team we have is the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets, they're small ball. Let's face it, it's working. They are on a 5-game winning streak right now, and they look unstoppable. And you know, they had to switch it up because they've been a team where they're not mediocre, but they just can't get past that second Western Conference Finals. They just haven't made it to the finals yet with James Harden on their team. And this year maybe could be the year. Of course, they look the best when the Clippers and Lakers become studs. Um, but this small ball lineup is working. They beat the Lakers already. We haven't seen them play the Clippers yet with the small ball lineup, but it's working. You let Russell drive. You let James Harden take over offensively, and when Russell drives, you can kick it out to Rocco, Daniel House, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, who can tell all these threes. The game is changing where you want your players to be able to shoot threes, but you also want that one guy to be able to just drive with force and no one can stop him. And you could see the Lakers have been doing that. The Bucks are doing that, and now the Rockets have kind of switched to that. Except they're playing a small ball lineup, and you could say, oh, what about the rebounds? The thing is that they have these dogs on their team who will box your center out, and they will tip the ball. You will expect to see not a lot of grabbing of the rebounds from the Rockets, but a lot of tips to players to start the fast break because they love to hurry up and they love to run the fast break. The next thing we have is the Utah Jazz. And right now, it would be a crazy matchup, Rockets versus Jazz. But let's just focus on, the teams individually. The Jazz are a team where they're not talked about either. They have Donovan Mitchell, who was an All-Star this year and deserved to be. Rudy Gobert was an All-Star this year, deserved to be. But I think their team is really going to depend on, is Donovan Mitchell going to show up? And, Gobert is going to show up defensively all the time. But is Mike Conley going to show up? Mike Conley, as in, is he going to put up 15 and 8 a game, which is what the Jazz need him to do, and play defensively? And is Donovan Mitchell going to be able to carry the team through these hard opponents? That's the real question for them. We will see what they're going to be able to do. Obviously, Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich, they have great role players, but it's going to depend on, the huge pickup this summer was Mike Conley, and of course the progression of Donovan Mitchell. So we will see if those two X factors will be able to bring the Jazz far in the playoffs. The next team we have is the OKC Thunder, and this may be a surprise to many. I said the Thunder would be the 9th seed, which isn't that far. People had the Thunder at like 11, 12, but I knew they had a very good team, even though they didn't have that superstar. They had a very good team. They had Gallinari, Shai, who I knew would have a breakout year, Chris Paul, Steven Adams. They have a very good team. They don't have that superstar, which is great because you don't have to rely on someone to score for you every time. You have Gallinari, who could have an off game, and then Shai and Chris Paul pick it up. Dennis Schroeder's right there off that bench. So they just have a very good team. Billy Donovan is doing a great job after, question marks about is he going to stay, is he going to leave. So they look very good, and they have 7 first-round picks from the summer. So they're in the perfect position. They could still win, and they could get these picks that, they're picked in 2025, and Kawhi and Paul George most likely won't be there by then. So then the Clippers might be a bad team by then. They could get the first pick in the draft and still be a good team. They're going to have a future superstar in Shai, who I love. So they have a very good future, and I'm very excited for them. The Mavericks are next, and it's going to depend really on is Chris Stapps going to show up in the playoffs, because right now they'd be facing the Nuggets, and when you have Paul Millsap against Chris Stapps, you need Chris Stapps to take that matchup and destroy it. Chris Stapps had obviously, not a downfall year because he did tear his ACL, but a year where all you wanted him to do was just, not be terrible because obviously, it's going to take some time to get used to coming back from a torn ACL. And he's done that, but he's been inefficient from time to time. So their X factor is going to be the 2 inefficient players from the Knicks that are now in the Mavericks, which is Tim Hardaway and Chris Stapps. Because Tim Hardaway could drop you 25 a game if he is feeling it, but most of the times he is not. So it's going to depend. Luka will put up 35 a game. Don't worry about that. Next, we have a surprise team. People thought they would be the worst team in the league, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm saying they're the AC right now, but let's be honest, they will not be there by the end. Injuries are plaguing them heavily right now with Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson. Ja right now is the front runner for Rookie of the Year, but watch out for Zion. I don't know, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid played, I think, 35-ish games, and Malcolm Brogdon was like the Ja. He's putting up like 15, 5, and 5. And Joel was having like 20 and 8. And so you're like, oh, Joel's a better player, but he didn't play enough games. I think that's what's going to happen this year. But anyway, They have a very good future, which is great to see. But I think they're still too young to handle the pressure of trying to make it into the playoffs, and injuries are plaguing them right now. So give them a few years, but they will be a very good team from years to come, with Jaren Jackson and Ja as their duo. Next are the Trailblazers. Obviously, injuries have been plaguing them all year, and that's what sucks because you know that if they had a full healthy roster, they would be the eighth, seventh seed right now, maybe even sixth seed because that's like the lower echelon. You have like the top five teams from the Jazz up, and those teams are not as good. But they've been dealing with injuries. I'm so glad that Melo is back to his old Melo self, where he's you know taking the shots that he wants to take, driving and scoring, and not being inefficient and not being a bad sport about playing on a team. I think the Blazers will make the playoffs. They're only right now 3 games back. Most likely 2.5 tonight after the Grizzlies lose because they're getting blown out right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think if Lillard comes back hopefully soon, then they will be in a good position to make the playoffs. The next is the Pelicans. I'm gonna try to get through these quickly because it is a very long episode. The Pelicans are a team that are still very young. They have Lonzo, Hart, Ingram, Zion. It's so good to see Ingram be an all-star. We knew he had the potential. We always compared him to Kevin Durant, but he never showed up like Kevin Durant. But this year he looks like a mini KD. Zion's a monster. He'll be an all-star for years to come, probably starting next year. Lonzo is playing pretty well. Josh Hart is having a pretty not so good season. But they have their future. Ingram, Zion, Lonzo. Drew is still there. Hayes is playing pretty well for not getting that many minutes. So they have their team. It may take a few years, just like the Grizzlies, but they will be fine for years to come. The Spurs, it's time. It's time. Trade Aldridge this offseason. Let DeMar walk. It's time to rebuild. I love Pop. Pop is retiring soon, most likely. So I would let Pop retire, and I would start the rebuild because they don't have a future superstar. They have DeJounte Murray's a great player, but no one else. They have a lot of vets on their team. It's time. They're not making the playoffs this year. Next, we have the Kings. The Kings are on a hot streak right now, but don't expect that. But don't expect them to be anywhere near the playoff talks in weeks to come. De'Aaron Fox is there, but they've been dealing with injuries all the time. Bagley's been out for a long time. Bajinka, I know, is out. Bertrand Holmes has been out. So they've been dealing with injuries. Buddy Hield was now moved to the bench. So they're a little all over the place, but they have Hield and Fox locked up for the future. Bagley too. So it's just going to be dependent on in the coming years. Can they progress into real players, and could they stay healthy? And also, as a Kings fan, you probably hope for a good pick this year because you're not a great destination. You're in California, but you're in Sacramento. It's probably one of the bottom teams in California that players want to go to. So you're gonna have to build through the draft, and hopefully your players progress into stars. Next, you have the Suns. You have Devin Booker there and DeAndre Ayton. Ricky Rubio is a great pickup for them. They just don't have the greatest depth and the greatest team in general, which is why they're struggling. Good to see Monty Williams coaching. And I think he'll be there for a while. But the Suns, it sucks because they just need. The Suns again aren't a great free agent market. So we'll see how they'll go through with progressing as a team because Booker's a stud. DeAndre Ayton's playing like a monster. And Rubio's probably going to be there. They're going to probably re-sign him this summer. But it depends who else they're going to be able to get. Next, we have the Timberwolves. They're not going to be good. I don't think so. Even with Russell and Towns, they're not great defensively. I don't think Towns is a leader. And I think they're stuck because, again, Minnesota is not a top free agent destination. And they're spending all their money on Towns and Russell. And they just don't have that many great pieces around them. Of course, you have like Juancho Hernan Gomez, and I'm forgetting his name, the shooting guard from the Nuggets, who they picked up in a trade. But besides that, they don't have that much young talent. You have a Kogi and he's playing well. But it's just the defense is not there, and you don't have a leader on that team, and that's the problem. Um, and that's going to be the problem for years to come, and that's why I don't think they're going to be a good team. The Warriors, they'll be fine. They'll get a top pick this year. They'll be right back. Curry's coming back Sunday. They'll be fine. I don't even have to talk about them for being so bad because it's pretty much a tank year just to go back into the playoffs next year. So this was a very long video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This took me a while. Let me know your thoughts on all these teams, and I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.